All right. You want to get going on this or what?
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
Welcome, folks, to another episode. I'm Cam, I'm your host, Gail.
Yep, I'm here.
So this is the first episode of kind of a different format we're going to run with for now anyways. We're going to give you an episode. So, obviously, if you've checked out any of our episodes before, we've had a segment called 93 to Infinity, which we've always run with as kind of like the main body in some ways to a lot of our podcasts. And we kind of wanted to give just its own podcast, essentially. So we're going to run 93 to Infinity as its own episode once a month, and then we'll kind of give the West Loop, or whatever we end up calling it, as its own kind of more news, political, whatever we decide to run with it, driven. But essentially, this one is kind of going to be just like what we had with the 93 Infinity. It's going to be more about just what's happened in history, as we were born in 93, and like kind of what we went through, and maybe some stuff beyond us. And it'll cover different topics. I've kind of developed up music, media, movies, TV, sports, and history is kind of just like a general area where we'll keep the topics narrowed to. Yeah. How's your week been, dude?
It's been good, yeah. No, I was just talking to you about before. I'm sore. I went for my yearly snowboard session and destroyed myself, and be time to recover for another year before I go back, probably. But
Nice. I've done a whole lot of nothing. I had 4 days off and just kind of more so relaxed.
nice.
Had a lot of computer work I've had to do, and just been, me and Logan binged Sharp Objects, which was a really interesting limited series from HBO. It's got Amy Adams. It's quite interesting. I thought it was a little bit slow at first, and then I kind of realized why it was slow at first. It's like it's one of those shows, and I think similar shows have done it, where it's like it's a little dry, and they've just packed in. They just try to give you so much like background and information, and it's only 8 episodes long. So for the first 6 episodes, I found it was like all information. So to some people, it might not be like super interesting because it's just piling just information, and then all of a sudden the last 2 episodes, it's like everything kind of comes together, and you're like, holy shit.
Okay.
And it's just like it kind of left you a little bit like, whoa, this is crazy.
It's like a lot of prep time, character development.
Yeah,
not
very
a lot of
much
plot in the
prep
first
time
half.
character. Well, and I think in order to have the ending so impactful, they had to have that
Yeah.
character development. And I think that's one thing that probably limited series kind of can struggle in sometimes, is just that you don't have that time for character development to get attached, in the sense of like a normal TV show when, say, they kill off a character, it's like a big deal, right? So, but it was good. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Anyways, yeah, we'll get into this. So yeah, the first segment I just have up here is music. I only have one thing for this, but I think this is an interesting one. I'm going to have you play this video. It kind of plays off from what we talked about on last week's episode of 93, where we talked about in 93 Infinity about Jimmy Fallon. 10 years ago, I think this was, so I'm trying to remember, when we talked about that, it was how many years ago that Jimmy Fallon took over The Tonight Show?
The Tonight Show, I think it was like 2014, so only like
Yeah, so
7
this would have
years
been
ago.
back when he was still on, what was it, Late Night with Jimmy
Late
Fallon?
night, yeah.
So this was still late night. And I remember, I think because Jimmy's always had the roots, there's probably one of the more appealing things for us, especially during this time range, was the fact that they did have a lot of hip-hop guests.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. That's
quite
what
frequently for music, whereas not a lot of mainstream television was featuring hip-hop. Especially these guys. So 10 years ago, Odd Future made their television debut on Jimmy Fallon. So let's check this video out.
Sure
It'll
thing.
bring some flashbacks for sure.
Oh, you gotta let me share my screen.
Work it, y'all.
Work it, y'all.
Our next guests are turning heads in the hip-hop world, and tonight they're making their
that Felicia
TV
Day?
debut with us.
I think it was.
Performing the song Sandwiches with a little help from the Roots. Please welcome Tyler, the Creator, and Haji Beats from Odd Future.
I haven't heard sandwiches in forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss that old Tyler beat, man.
Yeah.
Who the heck invited Mister? I don't give a what. Who cries about his daddy and applaud because his music sucks? I did. Well, you messing up, and truthfully, I had enough. Screw rolling papers, I'm a rebel dog. I'm ashing blunts full of crap like I ate that job. Come on, kids, screw that class and hit that work. Let's buy guns, kill those kids with dads and mom. When I own 401ks and nice. The Ellen DeGeneres, this is Jimmy Fallon in there. We're better than this, cause it's the introduction of golf wear. Is everybody hollering and screaming out, woof, gang. I got Timothy's, Kennedys, not Dom, but if I was a Dom, I would be Jeffrey. Going harder than jumping over me. Sonic, you know, shoving everything, plus the upholstery. Punches in the stomach with a little
Like that ring chick just kind of just vibrating in the middle there.
Woof, yeah, it's the woof. 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 Yeah, woof. Yeah, it's the woof. It's the woof.
Just screaming in his face.
It's the woof. Just sum it up, they dumb it down, or rumble up. Wake and bake and crumble up. No one's
Good old Haji, I haven't heard from him in a while, yeah.
with Jesus, Sandy Peters. Me, head and beavers. Hold his fever, pain reliever. Stupid Vic. We knows his old, so take care of her. Sage effect, declare of her. The spoons are put
I love these gnomes just chill.
Yeah, I love them.
Constantly like microphones and bury her. Psychedelic fella with a swag is even scarier. Wolf, guess what? Wolf, it's the wolf. It's the wolf. It's the wolf.
Who's the other guy on the
don't
chair?
know.
Is that Usher?
It almost looks like him. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty fucking unique at the time, for fucking sure.
Keep it playing here, because
yeah.
I can't remember if it's this.
Tyler, the Creator, and Haji Beats
Yeah.
from Odd Future right there. Look for Tyler's album, Goblin.
It just jumps. No, that's not Usher. I don't know who
Looks
the
like
fuck
fucking
that
left
is.
brain or something.
Haji Beats from Odd Future. Most
Obviously, he wouldn't be a guest.
and the greatest band late night, the Roots.
I have no idea who that is.
Slide. See you tomorrow.
Unreal.
Yeah. So, anyways, that happened 10 years ago. Yeah, and I don't know, like, I feel like that was, like, probably pretty out there for its time, in that sense of not seeing much hip-hop on TV, let alone seeing something like that.
Well, especially even like if you're thinking like 2010s, like I don't know, that's like a weird. It's kind of like that weird lull between. We were kind of moving away from that 2000s like 50 Cent like kind of gangster rap shit, but we didn't quite yet have like the sad boy partying music of like Drake and like later Kanye. It was like kind of a weird like in between time for hip hop. Like,
Well,
I think that kind of
like...
prefigures a lot of the SoundCloud shit too, right? Like that's almost what Tyler came up on, like.
Yeah, well, and I feel like with Odd Future, too, they appealed in the sense of there was, like, the tail end of that angsty punk kind of music, but then it was just like, okay, let's take that and let's make the angry rap version of that. And it was almost kind of, like, I know it's not the same, but I think also us knowing the people that were super into Odd Future, because, so... I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. We had an interesting history with Odd Future. I remember Odd Future coming up, and I didn't really know them that well at first. But I remember we would go, because we were like, we were in grade 12 essentially when they first started kind of becoming heard of. They were still quite underground in my opinion, but they were getting bigger. and all of a sudden their music would play at parties. And I remember it was like a kind of a mixed reaction on a lot of people at the parties part, because there was a certain group of people that were always playing Odd Future at the parties. And to some people it would kind of be like downer music. I remember me like being like kind of into it, but like also like, this is like a weird mood to a party music, like
right? Yeah.
just fucking angry ass rap. Just so I remember that happening, and not knowing who Odd Future was, and then just like as like we had kind of shared similar friends in those friend groups, they exposed us more, and then it slowly came to both you and me, because I think we came on to Odd Future around the exact same time.
Yeah, it was probably around this time. I think Goblin was like when I really got into it.
Mm-hmm. And then and then it just took off, and I remember like we became huge fans. I would say like
OF Tape 2 or whatever was definitely what sealed it for me.
Yeah, OF Tape 2 is like, to me, like I remember Goblin. I'm trying to remember though if I really knew Goblin like when it was new. Like I feel like I kind of listened to Goblin kind of once it was already older. But to me, the first OF, like Odd Future, was OF Tape 2. And then the first like true album that I got to enjoy like the release of and get hyped, because I was already a big Tyler fan at that point, was Wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was sweet.
I think someone's at your door.
No, it's my neighbors decide to put together furniture whenever. It's inconvenient for me. It's like they fucking know what I'm up to or something.
Yeah.
I'm either recording or I'm sleeping from night shifts, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, fucking time for an IKEA trip." Fuck.
But yeah, so that's like Odd Future for us, like, and then it took off from there. I mean, for me, I remember we had gotten into Odd Future, and I didn't really like dive into it completely, and then I'm trying to remember the timeline and how it worked out, but OF Tape 2 came out, and then the video for Oldie came out.
Oh, yeah,
and then I'm like,
I actually just watched that the other day.
Yeah, I'm like, who the fuck is this Frank Ocean guy? And then that summer, he had already released Nostalgia Ultra, and I just got into it heavy. And then that summer, Channel Orange released, and that was like, I talk about this summer as like the worst summer of my entire life, because we had just moved to Lethbridge, and then you and our other roommate had jobs back in our old hometown. And so you guys literally just packed your shit and left for the summer, and I was the only one left. So I just literally would take the bus to work, take the bus back home, and sit in my basement and either watch Netflix or listen to Odd Future. Literally, that was my entire summer. So like,
especially half of that album is so depressing.
Oh yeah, no, and I think, I mean, I was clinically depressed then, so I mean, it worked out well. But yeah, no, Odd Future like holds so many things in history for me, as like, for like music for sure. It definitely, I was into hip hop a bit, but it also transitioned me to have a new love and found love for hip hop. I found it as well.
Definitely.
It sparked that.
Odd Future, like the way you described, like kind of encountering the music first and being like, it was just so different that it was like just like almost turned you off kind of thing. Because I already was like a hardcore and metal kind of guy, so it's not even really the aggression that kills me. It's just like, it was weird hearing that almost in a hip hop form, right? Like almost foregoing rhythm for just screaming slogans and fucking.
Well, and it wasn't even necessarily the turn off, because I also went through a metal phase, right? But I think the turnoff was the sense that somehow this music was being played at parties. Because really, when did we ever play metal music at parties? Never.
No, that's
like
the thing. Yeah,
that just didn't happen. So.
It is. It works like that's the thing. Is it's like when it's, especially for the hardcore stuff, when it's a bunch of fans that like it, it can be party music. Everybody can get amped up and have a good time. But when it's that weird dynamic of half the party's obviously hating this, it's just not a good.
And I remember like that group of people just fed off the fact that half the party didn't like hate it.
Well, that was kind of like.
And at first, maybe I was just like, "This is weird," but then I kind of got into it, and I'm just like, "I fucking love this. This is hilarious."
And that's what I was gonna say. It's like one of those things. It's like, it was the first time that I kind of came across art that kind of bounced off me until I understood it in its like greater like context, like as part of a movement. And so then it's like, it doesn't make sense until you realize like what Tyler and what Odd Future was about, which was about like being shocking and defying norms and things like that. And so once you kind of buy into that, then the music makes more sense and you have a lot more fun with it.
Totally.
So that's kind of the first time that like I've ever experienced that, like needing some context around a piece of art to actually enjoy it, because on its own in a vacuum it's just kind of like abrasive. But
I agree with that completely. And for on a music standpoint too, it's like I've had so many artists where it's like I like this artist, like it's good music. But I think Tyler probably, and Odd Future, and it fell into Frank Ocean later, was the first artist in a sense that I came obsessed with more the person than necessarily the music itself.
mm-hmm.
And Tyler as a person, just like everything he did with creating the brand of Odd Future and just everything that, like, he was such an visionary person when it came to like what he had in mind for Odd Future and himself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I like actually fell for something like that on a person standpoint when it came to music. It was more just like, this person makes good music. I like this artist. Whereas like it was like I like Tyler the creator as a person more so than his music in some ways.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, which I think was so fascinating. And I mean, the guys obviously did something right, because he's still huge today.
For sure. Well, he was almost kind of one of the first to do it. I don't know, the way you describe that just makes me think of kind of Odd Future fitting in another kind of cultural context, in the same way that they're almost like birthing out of like the death of gangster rap, and then also that like emo scene hardcore thing that was happening in the 2000s. It was like almost a reaction to those things. But also Tyler, I feel like, is like one of the first of like kind of like the generation raised by the internet. And so like I think he thinks in a different way even from us. Like I think even we kind of caught the tail end of that as like being younger millennials, but like just this idea of like selling yourself as a brand, like just always marketing your kind of point of view, your aesthetic. Like that's as much as it's ubiquitous now, that is a fairly relatively recent phenomenon. And so I think Tyler is like one of the first, as far as like our demographic, to like really nail that, in the sense of like, it's not just my music, it's Odd Future, it's the whole gang. You can buy clothes. It's like
totally. Beyond. And I think, and I'm not discrediting what this group does, because I love this group and I love their music, but I think like someone like Brockhampton took like what Odd Future was and was like, we're gonna do this very similar thing. The music's quite different, probably arguably completely different, but they had the brand, they had the team behind. There wasn't just a couple of rappers. Odd Future was more than a couple rappers, and then Brockhampton did the same thing. They included their graphic designers and beat makers in part of their group, which I think was so cool, and they made it work. And I mean, they had a similar. I'm pretty sure Clancy, who was the manager of Odd Future, also has something to do with Brockhampton, from my knowledge.
That would make sense.
So I mean that could, I'm sure that man probably was also a brainchild behind a lot of what happened. But I mean, really, I think the credit falls on Tyler. But you're right. Like, he was like, I don't really think that had been done much before. Like, yes, bigger hip hop artists had brand and merch. And I'm sure in some ways Kanye probably is someone that also you could argue is that kind of same person.
I feel like he branched out later though. Like I think like they're one of the. I mean, obviously nothing's new. Nobody's ever the first anymore. But that was like the first time I saw someone like kind of like simultaneously building a brand outside of their music as they're building up their musical profile. Usually it's like once they're a big musician, then they start trying to branch out into like clothes and merch and stuff like that. But
totally,
it was definitely, he had his little donut from the get-go, right?
Oh yeah, and I remember like these Odd Future made socks like a popular item. Like, I remember that was the thing. Everyone had to have Odd Future socks. Like, it was just like, I still have
like they impacted fashion like in a huge way. I mean, Supreme's probably, I mean, it was probably already big, but I feel like he definitely inflated that.
Yeah, he did, because Supreme's been big underground wise, I think, for a long time. Like, I think it was around in the 90s even. But I mean, Supreme has been probably arguably the biggest it's been now, and I think Tyler definitely has a lot to do with that, for sure.
Looked out the glass and I'm sprinting on the grass. A real ninja with the blade and the mask. Had them gold ninja stars and red Supreme nunchucks.
But yeah, that's what I got for music. And then I don't know, this is maybe not the right title for this segment, but I have media, so things under that. Which could be
music not media?
yeah. But anyways, this is a big one for me. I don't know how much you're going to be able to touch on this, but I know you got history with it.
Oh yeah.
This month is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon.
That fucks me up. Like the game, because the game came first, right?
Yes, the game. Actually, I gotta look this up quick. I think it all happened pretty soon. When was the first game?
Oh, it looks like it was released in '96 in Japan.
Oh, the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Pokemon is the world's largest media franchise.
yeah, I've seen that.
That's
I mean,
fucked.
so I've been weird. I feel like me and Pokemon have an interesting relationship. I know there's been 3 times in my life where I've become obsessed with Pokemon. It's weird. So I remember I was younger. I had an original Game Boy, but I never had Pokemon on it. It wasn't until I had a Game Boy, and because I had an original Game Boy, I missed the Game Boy Color. Whereas a lot of people had the Game Boy Color first, whereas I actually had like the big gray brick Game Boy. And then Game Boy Advance was my first Game Boy. And then I remember I had Sapphire would have been my first Pokemon game.
Nice. And that's
Which
like a remake of Green, right? It's like Ruby and
n-
Sapphire or something like that?
No, Ruby and Sapphire are their own games.
Oh, okay. I thought they were
Yeah.
remakes.
They've since been remade themselves. But,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so Ruby and Sapphire, I was into cards. And I mean, I managed to keep a lot of my cards from when I was younger. But I never got the game until that. And then I was big into Pokemon then. And then I remember, I want to say it was like 2013, 2014. I bought a DS and then got really into Pokemon then. And then, yeah, I recently got into Pokemon on my Switch again and have been literally obsessed. I put
Nice.
over 100 hours into Pokemon Sword in the last month. So,
Fuck.
yeah, it's a little fuck. But anyways, yeah, like I just like everything Pokemon, man. Like they just revolutionized like so many things. Like and like the brand in the sense like you have a TV show, you have clothing, you have cards, you have video games. Like there's really nothing quite like it. Like I mean, it's wild. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, I see photos of me as a kid where I'm rocking like a Pikachu shirt and shit. Like, it's huge.
No, it's definitely like it's weird. Like I should have been more into it growing up just because I was such a nerd kid. But those games are fucking dense, man. Like they're
Yeah,
as much as they seem like kiddie shit. Those are like fucking. If you like are a serious Pokemon gamer, that shit's fucking intense. And like, I
Well,
definitely like got turned onto it by the show, and so I was expecting like a more fun experience like from the show as a kid, and then playing like, oh, this is a turn-based RPG. Like okay, like.
yeah. I think that was me too. I think I had troubles playing the games themselves because I love the anime, watch the anime all the time, and then what I'm just remembering now, the games that I more so got into were Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Snap on the N64.
Yeah.
I remember being more so into that before I got into the actual games themselves. And even at that, like, I was saying this recently to someone when I was talking about Pokemon, is like, I would get into it. Like, I would generally, I feel like I remember as a kid never really beating them, but I would get into it. Whereas this time around with Sword, and I think what Sword did for me is they brought an idea that we as kids always had and envisioned Pokemon doing, and it took them this fucking long to kind of do it. And they still didn't master it with Sword, but having an open world Pokemon game.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I don't know, as much as this sounds nerdy as fuck, I truly understood with this game the meaning of I gotta catch them all. Like I literally am like going through and I'm trying to like completely 100% my
Fill out your
Pokedex.
eh? Wow.
Yeah. And I'm
sick.
having a blast with it, man. Like it's so
That's
much
cool.
fun.
Yeah, that's the only one I ever went hard on was Yellow when I was a kid. I think around the same time when you got the DS and bought it, I think I bought like Pokemon White or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I think we both got into that at the same time.
Yeah, so like I was only like 2 times, but that's always my experience is I get into it, I'm like, this is so cool. There's like this is like so much content. Like, yeah, I want to catch them all, but then I get about like halfway through and I just get so burnt out, and then I never finish it. Because then by the time I come back to it, I forget what the fuck I was doing. And like,
Yeah. Well, and that's me with so many open world kind of games, which I
That's
think is
true too,
dangerous.
yeah.
And I think that's why I'm someone that has to be like what I've done, which is much as that's not the best either. Like 100 hours of a single video game in a month and a half maybe is kind of crazy, but
that's the only way I finish games.
yeah, it's the only way I can commit to it because I know if I take the long enough break before I go back to it, I'm gonna want to redo it.
Yeah,
I don't want to replay.
And you don't want to replay it 100 fucking hours. So then,
I went through like, and I did finish games like when I had the DS and then I had the 3DS. Like I had like, because it was Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby were like the remakes.
Oh, okay.
And then they had X and Y, and then Sun and Moon were also like big 3DS games.
Is Sun and Moon the one that was like all like
It's Hawaiian.
Polynesian Hawaiian? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It introduced a lot, which they've done now with Sword and Shield. So like Sun and Moon introduced the idea because they went to Hawaii, right? So they introduced the idea of, well, what if we have the same Pokemon but they're in different regions? So there's regional variants in the fact that it's a Pokemon you grew up knowing, but because it's in Hawaii, it just adapted to the environment differently and is maybe a different type or it looks different. And so Sword and Shield, it's in like United Kingdom, and so it did the exact same thing with that and
Just
has
a bunch of
regional
fat Pokemon with bad
well.
teeth, eh?
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, the 25th anniversary is coming up this month, which
that's fucked.
It's crazy. I've seen so many different things. Like Levi has a bunch of clothing brand things that they've come out with. There's big rumors on what's gonna be announced. There's rumors of remakes potentially coming out, or a new game, or maybe some more DLC or something added to Sword and Shield. But the weird part is they announced last week that on the 27th, the actual anniversary of Pokemon, Post Malone's going to be doing a concert for Pokemon. They released a trailer where it's like Post Malone, it's like 25 years, we finally did it. And he looks down in his hand and he's carrying this Pokeball. And then all of a sudden he turns animated like he's in a Pokemon game.
What the fuck?
And so yeah, he's going to be putting on a concert on the 27th for the Pokemon anniversary. Which I thought was the weirdest yet kind of brilliant thing. Like, This is like a whole new thing, and I know that this isn't the exact same thing because I think the concert is just a concert. It's not like it's in Pokemon, but like I don't know if you've seen like what Fortnite's done, but they've literally done concerts within the game. Like it's weird.
It is so fucky.
Yeah.
It's like a cool thing though. Like we're slowly everything like all those interactive worlds are slowly merging with other entertainment mediums, kind of.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant, and when you have that much of a platform like Fortnite does, what better way? I mean, I think coronavirus certainly helped with that. Even though I'm pretty sure that concert was pre-COVID, like it just makes sense to do that during COVID, anyways. Like, and I mean, if you want to talk about someone like fucking, I don't know what it is with Travis Scott, but that man is literally on everything, like. Between Fortnite and then he made a deal with fucking McDonald's where you could get the Travis Scott meal, and like
Cactus
Nike, like it's like what the fuck? This guy is just like marketable as, and I mean he's doing the similar Odd Future thing too. Like the group, but he has his own brand of like Cactus Jack, I think it is, or what is it?
I think it's Cactus Jack, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
anyways,
weird,
so and
no,
then,
I don't know. Like the Pokemon shit, I don't know. Like I feel like I had something else to add to that, but just it is strange that just something is like going that strong. Like usually, I mean, every kid's like they almost have like their own weird fads. Like we had Beyblades, but no generation will probably fucking have Beyblades again.
Well,
or
Beyblades is a thing still.
Is it still a thing?
I've seen Beyblades at Walmart.
Because I remember like Bakugan was one too with those little balls that spring open.
Oh
into
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
monsters.
yeah. I remember.
So I just always thought that like there was some new trend for every kids, but it seems like Pokemon is like a standard one now that just every generation goes through.
I do think probably so. I think we're on like maybe a 2 or 3 year high, maybe 4 or 5 of Pokemon. I do think it went through a weird doll phase where it just wasn't big.
Probably.
And then now, I mean, I've talked about this. I guess I haven't told the podcast this though, but so like that fucking idiot Logan Paul, he buys a original sealed set of Pokemon cards for I think it was around $375,000, and it just blew the market of Pokemon. They're now having to print cards faster because they're getting a mixture of kids are loving Pokemon again now and wanting to buy cards, and a mixture of just scalpers are like, I'm buying all these Pokemon cards.
Jesus.
And like I've sold a lot of my Pokemon cards from a kid because a card that was maybe valued at $100-$200, I ended up selling for $800 and on eBay, and it's just like the whole industry. So I think in that in itself has helped Pokemon skyrocket again in appeal. And definitely like the cards, and so like when you think about it, if they're running this high, it's like, well, what could we do? Let's go get Post Malone to do a fucking concert for our 25th anniversary.
I was trying to think of some kind of joke, like what is like Post Malone an evolution from Malone or Pre Malone?
Oh god, Pre Malone has evolved into Post Malone.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean I love Pokemon, man. It's just like it's pretty fascinating, like what they've done, and I was reading or I watched a video on it. Like it's cool too. Like there's like some big pinnacle things in Pokemon that almost happened that like never happened. Like Microsoft almost purchased the rights to Pokemon, I believe back in 2005. I want to say it was.
Okay.
So, like, imagine Pokemon not being a Nintendo product. Like, that would have been crazy. Like, we could have played Pokemon on an Xbox. Like,
yeah, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, so on top of that, for the Pokemon, we also have the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Which, Zelda's been huge. I only know Zelda from N64. Moving forward,
like Ocarina of Time or whatever.
Ocarina and Majora's Mask, and then they've already announced one big thing. They're remaking Skyward Sword for the Switch. They announced yesterday. So, which is I think a lot of people say it's one of the shittier Zeldas, just because it's the whole Wii mechanics system. But,
yeah.
They've
I've
already
heard people
announced.
defend it though too, like like it's like a sleeper gem kind of thing. Right? Like,
Ryan says he loves it. Like he says it's one of his favorite. And they brought the mechanics over. They did the Joy-Cons with the mechanics with the Joy-Cons, but then you also have the option to just play completely controller. Because you pretty much have to with the Switch, because you have the Switch in handheld mode. You have to have basically.
You can't be waving around with the screen.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So. Which that's interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, there could be a lot. Last month, or no, this was a while ago. I can't remember. November, I think, was the 35th anniversary of Mario, and they did a lot. So I'm sure they're gonna do a lot for Zelda as well. Maybe another
it was like that Mario
something.
All Stars, like a bunch of remastered games or something.
Yeah, they brought out Super Mario 64. And then Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy remade into a all-in-one kind of thing. Yeah.
No, I feel terrible. That's like my greatest. I mean, I don't really think of myself anymore, but there's definitely like a good decade where I like definitely identified myself as a gamer. And that was always like my biggest like secret shame is like I've like basically never played Zelda games. Like
really?
I beat I got like the HD. I borrowed my brother's Wii U when I was down working in Waterton, and I played Wind Waker, that summer, and I fucking loved that. Like, I definitely like get the appeal of them. It's just like they're.
I don't know. I have found a new love for Nintendo again. I grew up as Nintendo as being the only product I had until Xbox even came along. And I don't know, like I had the N64, and then I got a GameCube, and so I played like Wind Waker. I played, I missed the Twilight Princess phase. I missed out on Twilight Princess. And then I just never owned Nintendo products, And then I don't know, man. Like, not that I'm trying to get you onto Nintendo again, but I feel like as an adult, it is the best casual gamer kind of system to have.
Well, yeah.
It's
the
just
Switch looks fucking great, man. I keep
Well,
getting tempted, but
it's like it's portable in the sense that you could bring it places, you can bring it to work. It's great because it has a party element where you can play with friends and have that element to play with friends. The Switch in itself now is getting bigger titles, which is cool, and it kind of the nostalgia element of playing those games you played as a kid. I don't know. To me, it's the perfect thing. I have no intentions of even getting another system for now, like for the foreseeable future. Like it's just it's.
Oh, me either. Like I'm just not enough of a hardcore gamer to need like a next gen thing, but specifically because the Nintendo looks great for casual stuff, whether it's playing old or remastered Nintendo shit, or whether it's just like it sounds like the indie scene is like
the
fucking
indie scene's
hopping
huge,
on Switch,
and that was the smartest thing that Nintendo did. Because I remember if you were an indie gamer fan but you wanted console gaming, PlayStation was arguably the place to go for that because they kind of had a deal with Steam.
Yeah, for a while there was some weird partnership.
Yeah, but I would argue that Nintendo has that same deal. Like any game that I remember from those times, like Hotline Miami collection, like all that kind of shit is all on Nintendo.
Nice.
And it's portable. Like it's just like the perfect thing.
That's
Portable in the sense of like I love the idea of just like portable for yourself, or boom, you just pop out the kickstand, slide up your Joy-Cons, and two people can play portable.
Yeah,
that's
like
like that idea is brilliant.
I remember seeing that in the commercial thing, like that's so gimmicky, nobody will use that. But I can already think of so many times that I would. Like,
there's only certain games that you would utilize that for, but like
Yeah,
for a Mario Party
yeah,
or a Mario
old school 2D
Kart
shit.
or shit like that.
Yeah.
Like it's a smart idea.
No, they've almost got me, but yeah, like even both Zelda and even when you listed it off all those Mario remasters, I was just like, I have not played any of those. Like,
yeah, I have
my
never played
first
Mario
Nintendo
Galaxy.
console was a Wii.
Really?
Yeah, and
See,
like
that
even
was
then,
like when I stopped. I
never
never owned a Wii. I never owned a Wii U, and I kind of never desired to. I didn't like the system itself. I thought it was kind of garbage.
They're not.
Even though I'm pretty sure the Wii is like one of the best all-time selling systems ever.
It is. I specifically like Wii Sports was like one of the greatest selling games of all time, just because it was packed in. But like that's what people were buying it for, man. Like,
yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest craze of people that usually don't give a shit about games buying a system was definitely the Wii.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Although,
sorry. Go ahead.
Just because it's probably the 35th anniversary of that game, I've never played it, but I'll never forget at PAX 2011. For the Omegathon, and like that was the capstone like final round was whoever can get the first piece of the Triforce in Legend of Zelda.
I remember that.
Wins.
Yeah,
that was pretty fucking crazy.
And we watched two people game in a fucking massive theater,
just on shitty little CRT TVs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was cool.
But that definitely like spoke to like how unifying that series is like across like myself. Not included because I just never really played them, but like that it seems to be the connective tissue for so many people. You can play all sorts of different games, but if you've been around long enough, like you've played a Zelda game, like that's definitely like a common point of reference for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's huge, and like I said, I've kind of come and gone with anything Nintendo for that matter, and just so Zelda is kind of the same thing. But Breath of the Wild was the first game I bought when I bought a Switch, and
I've heard that.
I'll be honest, I haven't beat it. I kind of got into it so hard, and it's such a long game anyways, that I kind of I fell off. However, I don't feel as though I need to restart it when I go back to it. I made the mistake of buying Pokemon, and then literally that's all my Switch has played other than like a couple party games. And then the last thing here I have, which is huge, in 2005, YouTube was officially registered. And I have some, so yeah, it was the brainchild of Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawed Karim.
Jawed Karim?
So yeah, they were all former employees of PayPal.
That's interesting.
And they just thought of this idea in 2004 at a dinner party. And the trio was frustrated on how hard it was at the time to find and share video clips online. And so, like similar Silicon Valley startups, they started in their garage. And in May of 2005, they released the beta version of YouTube. So the idea was started and registered the idea was started in November of 2004, registered in February of 2005.
Okay.
And then the beta version was released in May of 2005.
So like the domain was registered, or like the company filed for like something?
I think the company and probably everything kind of in that area.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, the beta version was released, and within a month, the very first video was posted. It was titled "Me at the Zoo." It was a 19-second clip of the guy Kareem in the group, which featured him at the San Diego Zoo talking about elephants and their trunks.
Wow.
By September of 2005, still all within a year from the idea at a dinner party, YouTube had managed to get its first video with 1 million views.
That's wild.
This was a Nike ad that went viral.
Huh. That's crazy to remember that time. I remember, like that kind of early 2000s, and like every website had to have their own like native video player. Like I remember like going to specific video game websites because I liked how much quicker their videos loaded than somebody else. Like that's just such a weird relic. Like now just everybody embeds a YouTube video. Like it's just like the standard now. But
well, and what's fucked is like, so there's that, and there's people that have just said, you know what, fuck it, like we utilize YouTube. Then you have a company like fucking Twitter who just has failed at video in general. Have you ever tried to watch a video on Twitter, man?
yeah, it's pretty.
It still
pretty
to this
atrocious.
day takes fucking 10 minutes to load. Like it's ridiculous. But yeah, no, these guys started YouTube
And then get the big Google big bucks, baby.
yeah, I don't know when that happened. I'm
I
sure
feel like
it's
it was
on
within the
here.
last 10 years, probably. Maybe even the last 5. Nah. But it's crazy that, like it goes from like some kind of up and comer to now it is like it's almost a monopoly. Like, I don't know. I mean, other than what, Vimeo? Fucking, what else do people use?
I mean, yeah, I think Vimeo or whatever it's called, I've seen a bit. But like literally, it's YouTube, man.
But it's kind of a bummer to see that like monopolization process take place, because it's just like it was like new and exciting. Oh, anybody can upload. That's crazy. And then you had this whole period of like people are getting famous on YouTube, making a career out of it, So then that kind of feeds into it being the most popular platform. And then by the time all of the competitors kind of die off, all the other video platforms that are out there, now they start pulling back like, oh, actually, we're going to change the way ad revenue gets shared with creators. And, oh, actually, we're going to change the threshold for you to be able to monetize and all that. It's like they start clawing it back once they have total market control.
Which I feel like that's Google.
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
So yeah,
well, it's just the nature of the market.
So that's all 2005 that we talked. October 2006. So
like a year
or so later, Google
almost 2 years after
acquires.
they thought of it.
Yeah, Google acquires YouTube.
It was that early on?
Yeah, for $1.65 billion.
It's a bargain.
Holy! But just think of
In
that.
retrospect,
though.
but yeah.
But think about that. Think of that. A brainchild idea from 3 dudes that they created a program in a fucking garage, sell it a year and a half later for $1.65 billion.
Yeah. And I think that was probably one of the last examples of that kind of stuff. Like the image of Silicon Valley that we get painted to us through shows like Silicon Valley, of this idea that you can just get like $1 billion payout from something running into your garage. I think that dream is kind of dead. Like, I think.
Yeah, I think it is and it isn't. Like, maybe $1 billion. Like, I find a lot of these companies do still sell off, but you're right. Like,
none of that, like, fucking massive.
I think the
like
thing
that.
is now is to do shit through, like, like, what's that program where, like, you develop an idea and then you post it to this and then people fund the idea?
Oh, like Kickstarter or whatever?
Kickstarter, shit like that. I feel like that's more like, crowdfunding in that sense. So yeah, and then by May of 2007, it launched its partner program to enable content creators to actually make money off of their videos.
Okay. That's interesting. Fucking wild, man. Like it's just so ubiquitous now to think that not only were we alive for a pre-YouTube time, but it's really not that long ago. Like, it just fucks me up.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having to start a video buffering on some other site and then walk away and do something else for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I remember
to watch
even
a video.
YouTube itself.
You'd have to wait for it
stages. Because by March of 2008, YouTube allowed this. This is crazy too.
You couldn't have over 10-minute videos or something like that, right?
That was before that. But in 2008, YouTube allows support for 480p videos on the platform.
Oh my god. That looks like dog shit now. That's fucking crazy. And then now I can just cast a fucking full HD video from my phone within seconds to my TV.
Within seconds, yeah.
So fucked. No, yeah, we had our own little. That was probably not too long after that. We tried to do our little YouTube filmmaker thing there in junior high.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So that would have been probably grade 8, grade 9. So what year would it? Fuck, that was in the pretty early stages of YouTube.
I think we were on YouTube pretty early on.
It's crazy. That was in August or March of 2008. They allowed 480p videos on the platform. And then by November of 2009, 1080p videos were introduced.
Okay, and that's when we have uploaded all of our videos from about 13 years ago. So it would have been 2008.
So probably even 480p.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was whatever dog shit digital camera my mom had, and then just editing through Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, they've just control the market for sure when it comes to that.
Yeah, now they fucking do for sure. Oh man, the Wild West of the internet, man.
This timeline though is insane. Looking at it, holy fuck. In March of 2013, YouTube reached 1 billion unique monthly visitors.
Holy shit! So a seventh of the planet going to that website.
Yeah.
Well, and just the sheer amount of data out there now, the fact that everybody just uploads shit to YouTube, even the fact that we are just throwing up an hour of content a week, and it's just no, you don't have to think about storage space. They just have servers to handle this.
Yeah,
it blows my fucking mind how much content's produced.
Yeah, I know it is. It's insane. But yeah, I don't know. Do you want to end it there, or do you want to? I do have some stuff, but we're at the hour mark.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, I think we bullshitted for about 10 minutes before we actually got into it on this time here. But yeah, I mean, what else do you got? We can probably. I'm sure there's not much to hit here, but
the last thing I got, and this is actually a fun one to talk about, is for sports. I have in 2005, February 16th, the NHL became the first North American professional sports league to cancel an entire season. The 2004-2005 season was canceled after the collective bargaining agreement between the owners and the players' union ran out of time. Which, not only do I remember this, but I also think it's just funny because here we are 20 or 15 years later, and yeah, it's just but I do really remember this year. I think actually around this year and a year before and a year or two after was my peak of being an NHL fan and buying the game every year and just loving NHL in general. So I do remember it being a big deal.
Well, I just remember not understanding. I was young enough that I didn't understand labor legislation.
Yeah,
union workers' rights. So that all went over my head, and it's interesting how much my views have changed since this stuff went down. Because definitely the culture, the vibe around this, I remember was definitely those fucking greedy pussy hockey players. Just take what you can get, and you're depriving us of a season, you greedy bastards. Was definitely the vibe I was getting from older parents and stuff when they talk about this stuff.
Totally, yeah.
And so it's just interesting how I definitely absorbed that and it was like, oh, fucking athletes make millions to throw a ball around there, blah, 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 blah. Whereas now I'm like, well, they generate so much profit for these fucking owners. Like, yes, they should be fucking fighting
Yeah.
and bargaining for every last cent they can get, you know? So it's
Yeah,
funny just how-
we talked about this before, and
I think so, yeah.
and it's definitely like something that I've had to think more about, because I was that person too that was kind of like, and I think it's an element of I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, like
But
they
you're
should
right
not be
on the
making that much money,
standpoint
but-
on the standpoint of, if yes, the owners are making that kind of money, of course the players should get a certain percentage of it. I think what's frustrating, and we've talked about this, is just how when they need a new stadium or shit like that, it comes to the taxpayers to pay for
Yeah.
that, which makes no
and that's to be
fucking
mad
sense to
about
me.
the owners more than anything, right?
Yeah, it realistically has nothing to do with the players. There shouldn't be any anger towards the players. Anger towards just how ridiculous that industry is that big and players make that much money. But it's not the players' fault, and I can see why an agreement like that. I mean, I don't know the details. I'm assuming they wanted a certain percentage or wanted more money. And I know since 2005, I mean, I'm sure the average contract compared to the average contract now is night and day difference.
Oh, probably for sure. Yeah,
But
no,
I think,
it's less anger about like, I guess that's people miss the point. They get mad like, why are the players making that much money? When almost the question should be bigger. It's just like, why do we coordinate so much of our like social and infrastructure resources to maintaining this like incredibly like almost excessive luxurious like sports industry? It's like I don't argue, like I think that like sports are useful, like you get like kind of like almost like a community bond thing with other fans and things like that, but yeah, it's definitely it's not the players' fault that billions of dollars are put into this thing because it's profitable, you know, like they're just
well,
that's the bigger issue people have, I guess. But
the deeper thing too is like, I think just, I don't know, I think in order for people to like push through their day-to-day lives, they need distractions, and what better interesting thing than to have sports. I mean, some people are into Hollywood and the gossip and drama of that, but like some people are into sports, and the fact of the matter is it funds so much money on like sales of like jerseys and shit like that, and just cards and like
shit,
like so much shit that like it's not going. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've heard a lot of mixed things now. Like, well, these sports things recover. I'm sure they'll recover from what they're doing. Because the fact of the matter is now that a year later from this pandemic, they're still finding ways to run seasons. And I'm sure because there's not a lot of things, like the Hollywood industry hasn't recovered. It probably is the most, like, the one thing you can tune into on television right now is sports.
Yeah, for sure. And like definitely like as far as like the amount of money that goes into a Hollywood production versus like putting on a game kind of thing is like, like it just drops in the bucket, right? Like it's way cheaper. Like I think your margin is higher of profit on sports stuff. But it's funny that you say like we need distractions, especially from like daily life, like, and then that you mentioned Hollywood, because it literally is like, you think of like that fucking Roman Empire shit, right? You got to give the peasants their bread and circus so they don't revolt, right? Keep them satisfied and distracted. But it is like part of that, like literally, especially the more info that comes out about like CTE and concussion research, like football and hockey shit, that is our modern like gladiator games. Like
it is,
just like the peak like human physical excellence and just watching them fucking battle it out in an arena, basically. Like,
well, and on that level too, it's just like they should be making that kind of money. I mean, if the industry is bringing in that kind of money, why is it that the person who
literally
will never be the same because of the 10 years or 20 years that they put into that sport, not be the one that's walking out with at least the majority of the money? Like, that just makes sense.
I mean, you hear the same argument for labor rights stuff with like coal miners, right? Like, these are the guys going in literally breaking their back. Like, they should not be like failing and poor in their old age when they literally, the only reason that they're crippled is because they generated value for you, like mine owner, right? Like,
well, and I think that's what's funny too, is it's like, because I've heard, this is a common argument I've heard. Why is it that a doctor doing research in cancer can't make the kind of money that a fucking NHL hockey player makes. And it's like, yeah, that's a great question. But the fact of the matter is cancer research doesn't generate revenue. Like,
yeah, exactly. You should be asking like a bigger question, like why does our society incentivize throwing a ball around that much more than curing cancer? You're right. That's fucked up, but it's not the fucking hockey player's fault.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, for sure. No, on that note though, I'll always remember it was like the first meme, you know, of back when memes were just stupid T-shirt slogans people would wear.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the Hanson brothers from what the fuck's the movie? Slapshot.
Oh yeah.
The Chiefs guys that always get in fights, but yeah, I just remember every dad had this shirt. It was like, they've been locked up, but they've never been locked out.
Yeah. Well, and this year too. So that was this the year prior or the year before the Flames got robbed?
I think it was 2003.
2003. Okay.
Yeah.
But the 2003-2004 season. So it was the season before. Yeah. So then
they won it in Game 6, bro. It went.
Yeah.
I don't care, but at the same time, yeah, no, like that's a perfect example of sports. Like that was like the most. It's a vivid memory of like coming together with friends and like. Yeah, just like having a collective experience of something like that's
well, and I mean it's brought some interesting events and timelines. Like I'll still always remember was it the World Juniors or the Olympics where they got permission in bars to serve liquor at 5 a.m. for people that wanted to go and watch the game, and we all went to the bar and watched the game at like.
I think that was the Olympics, the gold medal game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, waiting outside the bar at like what, fucking 5 a.m?
Yeah, it was early from what I remember. Maybe not quite that early, but yeah. Like there's just, I mean, it's cool, and I as much as I've been a feeder of it, like me as a person of who I am, like I definitely see the issues with it for sure.
Yeah, but I think people do lose sight of like the community bond it can.
Yeah, no, there's so many things that I think people lose sight of community and why things exist. On a community standpoint,
I think probably because they get monetized and commodified, and it becomes about like it's not so much like it's not even like it used to be like, I don't know, you'd wear a Calgary hat because you're from Calgary, but now you're just kind of like abstractly identifying with a brand now. Like the Calgary Flames are a brand, not so much a community home team as much as they are now just like a marketing thing.
Or like even, and this is basic and simple, but people do it all the time. Even just using the term "we." I love how it's like, oh, we lost yesterday. It's like, oh, like did you? Like,
you skate real hard.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like both. I can like make fun of that shit because it sounds stupid, but also I don't know. There is something about like.
Well, I think that's something I've always found fascinating with wrestling that I've been fortunate enough to expose you to, and you've been able to see firsthand what that's like. Is the community base of that, and then because like when I talk wrestling, like there's a group of people that would be like, oh, that shit's fucking fake, and I get it, like it is fake, but it's beyond what it is, and if you understand what wrestling like WWE stands for, it's like World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah, it's more like a theater production to me than
and I mean, and you can't argue that these guys aren't fucking their bodies up and doing crazy shit, and like it was awesome. So like Logan's brother-in-law and sister came over for the Royal Rumble like a couple weeks ago. They Logan, I mean, so put context into it. I wanted to watch it, and Logan's like, I guess I'll watch it with you. And then all of a sudden she's like, this is awesome. Like I love this. She's just like getting right into it. And then she's like, I'm going to invite my sister and brother-in-law over. And so she invites them over. The whole time I'm having to provide context and explanation, but like it was quite entertaining. And like,
no, it's super cool.
I mean, the shit they do.
It's nice to have an in to give you that context too.
Yeah. No, I think that's what you need. And like, as someone who's been a fan my whole life, like it's just like, yeah, no. But I remember going to a live event with you, and you get kind of getting to see what that atmosphere is like. And I think once you're there, you kind of understand it more. Like just like the crowd chants and shit like that.
I definitely got it more. Like I could understand it like abstractly, like almost like academically. I was like, oh, these people all like have narratives around this and they like sharing it. But yeah, then it's like the difference between like reading like theology and then going to somebody's like somebody's church like that you've never been to before, and all of a sudden everybody's just like reacting to things and like doing these chants in unison and like reactions at the same time. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's like going to like a mass and not being Catholic and like, oh, why is everybody kneeling all of a sudden? It's just like, it's so fucking weird, but like it was cool at the same time because you felt like you were like part of like a greater collective. It was really neat.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it was. I'll always remember me and one of my best friends. We went to an event like I can't remember what year. I want to say it was like 2009. It was whatever year Taylor Hall was getting drafted into the Oilers. So I just remember the chants from the show. So the show was in Calgary, and like there would be literally like Taylor Hall chants, or like all of a sudden there's this chant in the building. It was Tabor Corn, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
I like that.
You come to Alberta, and that's a fucking chance that you're gonna get on your show.
Corn days.
Yeah.
Fuck. Good shit.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's probably gonna end her there.
But yeah, so that hopefully you guys like this. This is kind of the route we're gonna take. Every other podcast and just do the 93 Infinity. Just talk about things that happen in our life, beyond our life, and similar areas of what appeal to us. And yeah, we'll just run with this. Next month will obviously be March, so we'll see what March has in store for us.
What it had in store, yeah.
Or what it had in store for us, yes. And then not next week, but the week after, we'll be recording our West Loop. So we'll have some stuff for that.
Yeah.
And just tune into us every other Wednesday. And follow us on all of the areas you love to listen to podcasts, except for Apple, because I don't know what's happening with Apple.
I guess you got to be there a little pickier, I think. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's how I've been thinking it. Like trying to like simplify it is just like 93 to Infinity will be our nostalgic, navel gazing, looking back kind of show, and then the West Loop will be like staying in the loop, keeping up on current events, and then maybe even a little bit of extrapolating forward in the future kind of thing. So
yeah, no, I like the idea. I think for us, just like kind of we touched on in the last podcast too, is just that we work full time, and in order for us to make the best product for you guys, we just felt as though narrowing it down to 2 episodes a month just gives us that much more time to plan each episode so that it's the best for you guys and it just works better for us. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is the plan. Hopefully you guys like this new format. Let us know what you think. Give us a like, subscribe, all that bullshit. And
all that fun stuff. Yeah, we're marketing ourselves.
See you at the beginning of March, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll sum up February in a couple weeks here. So
yeah.
Sounds good.
Take it easy, folks.
Take care.
See ya.